You would hear my plea. I said, you need to have a way.
When he blessed
Something to say.
he blessed
Lord, you promised me you would be there for me, and you did just what you said. That's when you blessed me. That's when you blessed me.
Lord, you promised me you would hear my plea. Can you see it? Good God Almighty. But certainly the Lord is good and greatly to be praised. Lloyd and Giselle, I just want to thank this wonderful, loving church family. You all are so wonderful, and you all really don't know how much I love. Amen. They support me, to the board of stewards, to the trustees. Now we don't have to sit down, Bishop. We love you. I love you. And that's why I make sure he's here, because in 31 years, I want you all to treat me the same way. God bless you.
Years ago, I found some things from that time, and so I was like, that's crazy how I've been here before, but that's all cool and all. So I just want to highlight one thing in this thing. So it says from, I believe, 2007. It says, after I read a few things about him, I said, these are only some of his admirable accomplishments, his admirable traits, and we don't have to be happy with that position, but he will be leaving us after a long time, and I wonder if the still same great leadership will continue, but I'm not worried about that, so I hope he does win bishop, and even though he'll be gone, I know he will come back to visit, so I'm not that worried. So I'm glad he came back to visit us just a little bit today. And then, so, I was looking through some more archives, don't ask me why. Then I was thinking about this number 132. And so I looked in Psalms 132. And in Psalms 132, there's a little piece that says, verses 3 through 5 says, I will not enter my house or go to my bed. I will allow no sleep to my eyes or slumber to my eyelids till I find a place for the Lord, a dwelling place for the mighty one of Jacob. And I said, well, that's it right there, because from all the things that I can remember, I don't remember all 31 years, but I remember 21 of them pretty vividly. And from what I remember he would do just that. He would not rest until he found a place for the Lord, wherever that might be, whether that was at Blue Moon Diner when he took the young adults and the little ones to breakfast or brunch just to show them that he appreciates them and just sees the young people, whether that was on my TV screen every now and then when he was racing up and down the highway, making sure that black people could drive on 78 without getting a ticket just for nothing. He would make a place for the Lord, even still there. And I was moved by that. I was like, look, my pastor's a celebrity. I'll be calling my friends like, y'all pastor's not on TV. It's fine. Visually in 2008. And we were all in St. Louis, Missouri, and even after a hard fought, and I don't know who's crying more, us or him, but even in the midst of that, he made sure to come to us and make sure that he made a space for those, made a way for the Lord, even in the midst of so much that was going on in St. Louis. And so that verse was just like, it made so much sense that the 132nd elected and consecrated bishop of the AME Church would do nothing else but make a place for the Lord wherever he goes. And so, really wonder why I was looking through my notes, and the last thing I said, quality. So I just want you to know I was a great note taker when I was in the YPD. And so this, literally, this is my Allen Star notes from February 2nd, 2003. Again, don't ask me why I found this. Well, I don't know. There's a few things on here. It says the people of the church, the trustees, the stewards, and security. I spelled stewards wrong. Don't worry about it. 2003, out there with it. Then it was talking. Then we were taking notes about how the first district worked and some of the conferences. And then it got all the way down here, and I said these two words. It says head of the church, and it says Reverend Reg T. Jackson. And I said, why would I have said that? And then all the way down, more past that, it says who owns the church. And again, the answer was Reverend Jackson. And so, somewhere in my head in 2003, I thought the man that had made a way for the Lord anywhere he went, the man who was on my TV screen and with us at Blue Moon Diner, I sat with a celebrity, he was still the one who owns the church. So if you would please rise with me as we welcome and celebrate the owner of the church, the 132nd elected and consecrated Bishop Reginald T. Jackson. Thank you. And following a selection of
and the courage that seems so fierce. But in the word of God, I'm not an anchor. Yes, I do, and it keeps me steadfast, unmovable, despite the time. But in the Lord, billows may roll, the breakers may dash, I shall not sweat because the Lord, the Lord, the Lord. He asked him, how long will those who are righteous suffer from those who are unrighteous? He asked God, why would you allow those who are wicked and unjust to rule over those who are just concerning my complaint? And the Lord answered him. The Lord said, write the vision, make it plain upon the tablets, so he may run who reads it. For it has an appointed time. It will not lie. It may seem slow in coming, but wait for it. It will surely come. St. Matthew this weekend gathered to celebrate its 75th anniversary. And church anniversaries are interesting. Interesting because far too often the anniversaries are not inclusive of appreciation and thanksgiving. Too often the anniversaries focus on what is and overlook what was. And so it is, my sisters and my brothers, as you prepare to celebrate this 75th anniversary of St. Matthew Church, may I suggest to you that there are two words that ought to be inclusive of every anniversary. One word is past, and another word is future. And so as St. Matthew celebrates this 75th anniversary, I just want to encourage you tonight to take a moment to look back and celebrate the past. And one of the reasons why it's so hard to celebrate the past is because the Latter-day Saints, the new generation, is really not appreciative of the past. And understand they're not appreciative because they don't want to be appreciative. They are not appreciative because they do not understand what the past entails. They were not there. They do not know. And so somehow we've got to begin to teach and inform this latter-day crowd of what it was that we went through. And so St. Matthew, I just want to tell you, I think you ought to celebrate the past. Sometimes there's no harm in looking back. And St. Matthew has a great history. Look at it. Born out of separation. Split from St. Paul. The youngest of 3 churches in the Oranges. That church, born of a handful of people, started off worshiping in Gardner Smith's house. And then had its first service at St. Luke on Central Avenue. And then they had the audacity to gather in a little red brick building. Didn't have an office. Didn't have a meeting room. Upstairs, downstairs, and 2 restrooms. And then had the nerve to call it the little cathedral.
But that little cathedral gave them pride. And in that little cathedral, they worshiped and honored God. And God honored them for the worship and the praise and the service that he gave to them. And that little cathedral began to grow. But then there came trouble because of some church politics. And I know it's hard for you to believe, but there is such a thing as church politics. And church politics caused the doors of that church to be locked for 2 years, and the pastor couldn't get in. And there were some who pronounced the benediction on St. Matthew Church, but they forgot it wasn't St. Matthew's church, it was still God's church. And so God opened the doors. And God let Reverend Choice and Reverend Kelsey and Reverend Odom and Reverend Cartwright, God let Reverend Williams and Reverend Adams and Reverend Martin come in. God opened the doors, and I got news for you. There are 12 gates to the city, so if you shut one over here, God will open another one over there. And so the church began to grow. But again, trouble hit. Reverend Williams, after 6 months, died. And again, folk wondered how the church is going to make it. But God had a servant, a man sent from God whose name was John. John Wesley Jackson, a local preacher, stepped in the gap, served that church. The church didn't get weaker, the church got stronger. What a marvelous history St. Matthew had. Blessed with good pastors. And so God blessed St. Matthew to move out of the little cathedral and to build another church. And blessed it to keep on growing, to expand and build another church. God blessed it to keep on growing, that it was no longer just a church on the corner, but St. Matthew became one of the most influential churches in the city, in the county, and in the state. St. Matthew became the servant church of the Oranges. And 6 governors, 4 senators came marching through St. Matthew because St. Matthew had influence. Had so much influence at one time, 7 members on the city council, 4 of them belonged to St. Matthew Church. And other preachers accused me of trying to run the city. And I told them that's right. 2 members of the Board of Education came out of St. Matthew. St. Matthew sent preachers around the conference. And St. Matthew, you ought to be honored that a James Dees came out of St. Matthew. And a Vanessa Perry came out of St. Matthew. And a Dennis Hughes and Tamoya Buckley and Kevin Miller came out of St. Matthew. St. Matthew has a glorious past. And you ought to celebrate the past. But now, my sisters, my brothers, it's a peculiar thing happening to the Christian church in the United States. And I get tickled because it sounds good, but just because it sounds good doesn't make it true. We like to boast we are one nation under God. But it's a peculiar thing happening with the Christian church. Since being bishop, I've had a chance to travel all across the country and around the world. I now serve as the Bishop of Georgia. 520 churches. And you know, Georgia had just, you know, I'm still trying to, I was born in a state with 3 counties. Then for 30-some years, I was in a state with 22 counties. And now that God let him put me in a state with 159 counties. And they're crazy enough to think I'm going to get to all of them. It won't happen. But there's a peculiar thing happening. Almost every Sunday I preach at some church somewhere. And in almost all of those occasions I'm invited for a church anniversary. And I tell you what's happening with the church, and I lift it up because it's my prayer that St. Matthew will not be like so many churches I go to. In most churches today, our number one priority is not ministry. And it's not mission. And most of our churches today, the number one priority is survival. Too many of our churches are just trying to survive. Not ministry, not mission, but trying to keep the lights on. Trying to pay the bill. And because we're in survival mode, we do stuff which dishonors God. We have a 3-night fundraiser and call it a revival. We have anniversaries and Men's Day and Women's Day, not to build up and edify men and women, but to pay the bill and meet the budget. We're struggling to survive. But God's church is not to survive. God's church doesn't have to worry about survival. That's what God wanted Habakkuk to understand. Habakkuk, write the vision. For you see, my brothers and my sisters, it's a strange thing about vision. I'm in the home stretch now. I can hear St. Mattress calling. But they need you to 3 points, so y'all get them real quick. First thing about vision. You know, some of us get concerned whenever our churches go through trouble. The church has always gone through trouble. Do you think the enemy will let the church be around and not have some trouble? But understand something about a vision. Vision is born of burden. There's a vision because there's something wrong. Nehemiah's vision came because Jerusalem was overrun. Habakkuk's vision came because Israel had been conquered by the Chaldeans. And for every time there was a problem, God gave a vision. And God said, write the vision. Make it plain so they'll run who sees it. My brothers and my sisters, St. Matthew has a vision that God gives to the shepherd. God doesn't give the vision to 10 or 12 people in one church. God gives the vision to the head of the church. And it's his job, it's her job to see that the vision is explained to the folk. And then listen to what he says. It may seem slow in coming, but wait on it. Some of us act like God is like instant oatmeal. Deliverance is instant. But my brothers and sisters, can I tell you something? Sometimes it's God's will that you go through something. Sometimes it's God's will that you have trouble. You see, it's God's will that you have to lift some weight. You won't be strong if you ain't got to lift nothing. You'll be weak if you don't have to go through something. In fact, you won't be appreciative if you don't go through nothing. You wouldn't be thankful if you've been through nothing. You don't know how good it is to be up if you've never been down. You don't know how good it is to be glad if you've never been sad. But if you've been been through something. I learned. So that's the legacy. Legacy is learning from your past. St. Matthew, we ought to learn something from St. Matthew's past. When you look at all that St. Matthew has gone through, you ought to learn that God keeps his word. You ought to learn that God will make a way somehow. You ought to learn that nothing is too hard for God. When I think back over what God did in St. Matthew just during my time, all I tell you is you can't make me doubt him. I know too much about it. I remember when we went to City National Bank to try to get a loan to build the church, and City National Bank wanted to charge us 16% interest when the prime rate was only 7%. And somebody said, we can't get the money. But can I tell you, God made a way out of no way. I remember folk who were sick and the doctors had written off. I remember Charles Ebb 3 different times. They gave up on him. But all I know is God still has the last word. So legacy means you learn from your past. And then the last thing, and I'm done. Listen to what he says. This is destiny. Destiny means there is a hidden power that controls the future. Too many of us act like destiny is in our hands, in our control. Now, brothers and sisters, you don't define your destiny. God has a destiny for your life. And so no need for you to lose sleep at night. What God has for you is for you. You don't worry about folk plotting and planning. Destiny belongs to God. And so sometimes people get bent out of shape, worried about the church. My brother said, you ain't got to. No, take it back. I forget Sister Brown and Sister John, some other educators in here. So let me take that back. You don't have to worry about the future of the church. The destiny of the church belongs to God.
Yes, that's right.
Didn't you hear Jesus?
Come on.
Upon this rock, I'll build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. You know, sometimes we act like we in charge. Bishops act like they in charge. Pastors act like they in charge. Some of us act like we in charge. I was here when you got here. I'll be here when you gone. But can I remind you, destiny, your destiny, St. Matthew's destiny is in the hands of God. And sometimes God had to knock you down in order to pick you up. Sometimes God had to break you in order to make you. A couple of months ago, I preached at one of our churches in a place called Blakely, Georgia. I mean blatantly way out there. I had to fly to Dothan, Alabama to go to Blakely, Georgia. I mean, it's down there. Way down yonder by myself. Couldn't hear nobody. Way down in, anybody here from Blakely? And I was invited to preach for church anniversary. And one of the millennials, young adult, in the congregation said, "Bishop, can I speak to you after service?" And so I was sitting there trying to eat the gospel bird. You know, chicken is the gospel bird. Many a chicken has sacrificed his life for the cause of the gospel. But anyway, I said, "Can I speak to you?" So I said, "Okay." And the millennial was frustrated. I said, "Bishop, I don't think I can do this. The system doesn't work for us in the church." Millennial. The system doesn't work for us. And then when that young brother got through talking to me, one of the elderly sisters came and sat right down next to him and said, "Bishop, can I talk to you?" I said, "Okay." And she expressed her concerns and her frustrations with the church. "Bishop, y'all want us to pay all this budget? This is a small congregation and we don't have this," and it just went on. Everybody kept talking about what doesn't work for them. And I said to the young brother and I said to the sister, I said, "I don't know why y'all been out of shape over stuff. Don't you think God gonna work this out?" I still believe this is God's church. And I still believe he has the last word. Let me close. St. Matthew, I'm going to my seat, but I just want to tell you, going forward, trust God. Last year, December, went to a Congress of National Black Churches meeting in Charleston, South Carolina. And I had checked into the Marriott Hotel. A dear friend of mine, Dr. Freddie Haynes, who pastors Friendship Baptist Church in Houston. Large congregation, about 20,000 members. Freddie Haynes came to check in the hotel. But the clerk said, "Sir, we don't have a reservation for you. And the hotel is sold out." Dr. Haynes pulled out his confirmation, showed it to the clerk. The clerk went to the computer, came back to him and said these words, "Sir, I'm sorry, but we have a problem with our system. Your reservation is not in our system." Dr. Haynes and I were walking away. And I said, "Well, Freddie, if we can share a room, it's no problem." While he was walking away, he heard a voice call his name. Turned around, and a big grin came on his face. The voice he heard calling his name was one of his seminary classmates. And he said to him, "Freddie, what's wrong? What's the problem?" And so Freddie said to him, "Gary, I made the reservation. Here's my confirmation. But they don't have my reservation. They said there's a problem with the system. Gary said, let me have the reservation. Said, go sit down for a minute and I'll be back. We sat down in the lobby. About 10 minutes later, Gary came back and said to Freddie, Dr. Haynes, here you go, I got it worked out. And gave him his new confirmation. He had a reservation for a king bed, but his new reservation was the penthouse suite. And Freddie said to him, how are you able to do this? And Gary put a smile on his face and said, Freddie, my father owns the hotel. And said, my father overrode the system. St. Matthew's, I go to my seat, let me tell you, these are not easy days. And some of us are worried about the church. But can I tell you, get over it. Don't you know that our Father, He owns everything. Our Father is able to overrule the system. Our Father is able to make ways out of no way. Our Father is able to do exceedingly, abundantly, more than you can ask or think. Our God is able.
It's not jealous.